Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anvita and today I will be doing my February wrap up. It's a little late, but it is earlier than I did it for the January wrap up. I think I posted that on like the 8th or something, and today's the 3rd. So, progress, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna do my February wrap up and I'm gonna show you guys the books I read in February and what I thought about them. So let's go. So before I get into the books I read, I wanted to show you guys some stats that I got from Storygraph. And so overall I read 10 books in February, which were about 3,115 pages. My top 3 moods were tense, mysterious, and emotional, which makes sense because I did read, I mean, you guys know this if you've seen my reading vlogs, but I did read the mystery trilogy A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in February, so it makes sense why those are my top moods. Mostly the pace was medium, and then I read books with pages between 300 and 499 the most. And this month all the books I read were fiction, and my top genre was young adult mystery and thriller, which again, because I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, it makes sense. And then format was mostly print, which yay, because I've been trying to read through my physical TBR, and yeah, I need to bring the books down. Like, I did end up still buying more books in February than reading my physical books, which it is what it is. So yeah, basically my January book buying ban was a fail, and now I have over 70 books that I haven't read. So yeah, I have, in other news, I have gone on another book buying ban, except, I mean, on Instagram I did say that it was like for all of March, but now I'm gonna, I think, do this thing where I can only buy a book for every 5 books I read, or like 10, because I have 70, which is insane. And yeah, I'm going to try my best and bring that 70 down to 35 at the end of the year. No matter how many books I end up like being gifted, or like I keep buying, the end number will have to be 35 or less at the end of 2022. I'm saying it out here to, make sure that I'm held accountable for this resolution, I guess. So, yeah. Going back to the stats, I read 10 books. The average rating was 4.25, which is pretty good considering some of the books. Well, one of the books I read was not great, which is probably why the rating is not higher, but we'll get to that. And then here is my reading graph for February, which shows, like, you can see again, there was like a week in the starting of February where I was in a slump, which was because of that terrible book. Not terrible, I mean, I don't know, it was just so long. I'll get to that anyway. Yeah, so here's the reading graph, and yeah, some of the days I was in a slump, some days I was busy, couldn't read. But yeah, the 19th it says I read 607 pages, which is insane. I'm guessing that's the day I read As Good as Dead, because I know it's like 550 something pages, and I guess I read something else too then, I don't know. But yeah, kind of crazy. So that was all the stats that I got from Storygraph about all the books I read in February. Now moving on to the actual books. Okay, so the first 2 books that I read in February were 2 BTS fanfictions on AO3, and I count fics as also books and like put them in my reading goal because they are books. Like, I don't know, like, to me they count. And yeah, so the first two books that I read in February were two BTS fan fictions on AO3. Yeah, so I did see them on Goodreads and I added them. So if you do want to find out which ones it was and what I thought of them, I guess. I don't know if I rated them actually, but if you want to see which ones I read, you can check it out on my Goodreads. Storygraph doesn't have the any fanfics and stuff on it, I think, so I couldn't add it on that. But yeah, so the first two books I read in February were two BTS fanfictions. Both were great. I enjoyed them. It was good because I needed to read something to get me out of a reading slump. And yeah, so it was great in that sense. And then the third book that I read was Twisted Games. This I'd started in January and literally put me in the slump because it was so freaking long, and for what? Like, I don't even know. I started it and like I just finished Twisted Games before, and then right as I finished it, I started Twisted Games, and I was just like, it was great at first. It was all the tropes I loved, and you know, Princess and Bodyguard, like all of that, like I loved it. But then it just kept dragging on and on. Like, why is that book so long? Like, I got so done with it and I just wanted it to be over so I could move on to Twisted Hate, which I still haven't read because I'm just like, is it going to be another one of those long ones that I'm just gonna get sick of? And I don't want it to put me in a slump in case I end up not, you know, liking it. So yeah, I haven't read it yet, but yeah, Twisted Games just got really repetitive and the book just wouldn't end. Yeah, gave me a slump, so 2 stars for that. Yeah, but I did force myself to finish it, even though I'm like big on, you know, not finishing books and like DNFing it. So yeah, so the third book was Twisted Games by Anna Huang. The fourth one, the one that like saved me and got me back into reading, I guess, right now, was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I literally had been planning since like before January. I was planning this in December, I think, that I'm gonna like read all the 3 books and like do a reading vlog. And at that point, obviously, I didn't have my YouTube channel, so I was like, you know, I'm gonna start it and I'm gonna do it just so I can put this reading vlog out there, and you know, it'll be great. So yeah, so the first one, so the fourth book was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It was so good. I loved it. So the first one, if you've seen my reading vlog, know was like a shit show for me in terms of my detective skills. I guessed nothing. It was great though. Like, the book was like, I finished it in a day and just loved it so much. I wish we'd seen more of Pip and Ravi in it instead of just like in the end moment. Yeah, which is why I gave it 4.5 stars. But other than that, yeah, I loved it. It was, yeah, I love murder mystery series, especially YA. And yeah, even though they're not good for my heart and for my sleep schedule, it was still really good. I really enjoyed it. And so I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on a Friday, and then the next day, Saturday, I read Good Girl Bad Blood, which was the second book in the series and the 5th book I read in February. So this one I loved even more. Like, I think this was even better than Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It was more emotional. We got to see more banter. We got to see Pip and Ravi more. Like, it was just so nice. Like, and I think it just like came together really well, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. Like, the only thing missing from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I think, was like me wanting more of Pip and Ravi action, I guess. Like, in terms of them, like the way they are in the second and third book is like considerably different compared to the first one, and I just wish we'd had a little bit more of like the progression in that first book. So yeah, Loved the second book. It was great. 5 stars. Yeah. So I read these two one after the other, Friday, Saturday, and absolutely loved them. It was so good. And yeah. Okay, so after reading the first two books in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, I needed like a little break, and so I ended up finishing the book A Woman Is No Man by Etta Frum. I started this book in the beginning of February. I think on the first 2 days I read it, and then I'd gone into a slump because of Twisted Games, and so I couldn't read this either. But I am so glad I finished it. I'm so glad I read it. It was such a good book. I absolutely loved it, and I highly, highly recommend everyone reading it. So, but this book, I mean, my favorite book of February was A Woman Is No Man, even though I did read the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but this book was everything. Like, the way it was written, it was so beautifully written and so well constructed, I guess. And like the way both like the timelines intersected and everything became clear in the end was so interesting, and like my heart was in my throat like at the last page. Like if you read it, you know. But yeah, it was so good. If you enjoy multi-generational books, if you enjoy books about like family and stuff, like if you enjoyed Homegoing or like Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, I highly, highly recommend. If you enjoyed Pachinko, also Minjili, I'm reading it right now. Yeah, if you enjoyed Pachinko or Homegoing or Girl, Woman, Other, if you like books like that, read this one. Trust me, it was so good. Like, so difficult to read, I guess, in certain ways, and very frustrating point of views at some point, but it was so good. Like, so real, so well written, so well portrayed. Everything about it was amazing. Like, I know for sure that this book is gonna stay in my mind for years to come. Like, I loved it, absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. Yeah, and it was one of my physical TBR books, so hee. Okay, so the seventh book that I read in February was Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi. I'd read the first book in the series Bet in January and absolutely loved it. I think it was so well done and such a good book in terms of like the world, but also the story itself. And I was shocked by it because I couldn't even imagine how the author came up with this. Like, they wrote it so well. It was just amazing. And so when I found out that Bitter was coming, I had received the arc for Bitter by NetGalley, and so I was reading it, and I ended up finishing it as my 7th book of February. I absolutely loved it. I was so glad to have gotten a prequel to Pet and to get, you know, Bitter's life before Jam, and you know, before she found her aloe, if you read it. But yeah, I was so happy to get more insight into their world, but also see the differences between the two worlds, and like how the world that came to be in Pet actually came to be, and how it was before, when, you know, Bitter was still in college and stuff. And yeah, it was just so well written, so well done. Like, yeah, I absolutely loved it. Highly, highly recommend reading it. I do recommend reading Pet before you read Bitter, because Bitter has some spoilers about Pet. Even though it's a prequel, you should read Pet before. Yeah, highly recommended. It was so good. I was really happy I got to read it. Like, it was so well done. I'm definitely a big fan of their work, and I'm going to continue reading this author's other works. I've read Vivek Oji, The Death of Vivek Oji, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, so I'm just gonna keep going and reading all their works, and you know, definitely one of my favorite authors now. So yeah. Okay, so after finishing these two books that were not, murder, mystery, and, intense, um, I mean, intense not in like that kind of way, I guess. I ended up reading As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, the third and the last book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. This book, I don't even know what to say. Terrifying as fuck. Like, I literally try not to think about it too much because the scenes, some of the scenes, if I think about it too much, it'll scare the shit out of me. And I'm even right now, like, trying not to think about it. But this book was so good. Like, it really, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, this book was so scary. Like, my heart was in my throat. Like, just go watch my reading vlog, you'll understand. But like, also, wait, don't go watch it, because if you haven't read this, then there are spoilers in that, so don't watch it. But watch it after you watch this, and you will understand why I'm reacting this way to this book. It was terrifying as fuck. I don't even know what else to say besides that. Like, the way it went from murder mystery to how to get away with murder was such a, like, one moment I was like in this book, and the next I'm like, wait, am I reading something else? Like, is this really happening? Like, yeah, I finished it in a day. I had to, like, it is 500 and oh yeah, it's 552 pages, and I finished it in a day because I knew I would not get any sleep if I went to bed without knowing how it ends. So yeah, that day was I was going insane. You can tell by the way I looked in my reading vlog. But yeah, this book was insane. If you're very much into murder mysteries, even if you don't really care for YA, highly recommend. It did not feel like YA to me, at least. Like, I don't know what kind of kid would be able to do this. So yeah, loved it. 5 stars, of course. Yeah, made me lose sleep a lot. Yeah. Okay, so the ninth book that I read in February was The Cruel Prince. I'm rereading it. Wait, let me try and show you guys. Okay, yeah, so I've been annotating my physical copies. I read this for the first time in May 2021, and it's been less than a year, but I was ready to go back to the world, and so I've been, rereading the series. I'm currently on Wicked King. I'm gonna take my time with it, I think. And so yeah, absolutely loved it. Just as good as the first time I read it. You can tell. Yeah, I made like a, tabs and what they mean thing on Twitter. I'll show it here. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading it. 5 stars, of course. Yeah, I love Jude Carden. Yeah, so the last book that I read was My Mechanical Romance by Alexine Farrell Folmuth, and literally I saw it on Goodreads. The cover was amazing, so I added it. Then I read the description, and I even loved it more because, STEM, and I was a STEM student, so I get it. And then yeah, and then what happened was I found out that Alexine Farrell Folmuth is another pen name for Livy Blake, the writer of Atlas 6, and I was mind blown. Like, hello? My favorite book of last year, one of my favorite books of last year, and the author wrote a YA romance, and I didn't know about it. Excuse me? So yeah, that got me really excited knowing that it was her, because I love her writing, I love her work, and I literally since then had been hounding. Like, I was just living on the NetGalley website, just trying to find out when it was gonna come. And once it did, I requested it and I got it. And the next day, as soon as I got it, I read it in one day. So good. So, so good. Like, uh, yeah. I wrote a really long review of it on my Instagram and I'll link it below, so go check it out because I'm not gonna, you know, go over it again. But it was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. This book was fantastic. Obviously, all the physics went right over my head. It was my least favorite science, so makes sense. Um, yeah, but I loved the book. It was so good. I love Belle and Theo. Yeah, it was just amazing. Yeah, so those were the 10 books that I read in February. And as I said, my favorite book was A Woman Is No Man by Etta Frum. I highly recommend reading it. They were all so good, except Twisted Games. But like, I mean, if you liked it, then you liked it. We all have different tastes, so maybe you will like it. I don't know. But yeah, that's all the books that I read in February. I will see you guys soon. Bye.